Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. I'm so grateful to have you here, sharing in this space of growth, healing, and transformation. If you've already subscribed to Loving Everything, thank you for being a part of this beautiful community. Your support means so much, and together, we're creating a space where love in all its forms can be explored and embraced. As you listen to this episode, if it resonates with you, I invite you to like the video and share it with anyone who might benefit from the insights we're diving into today. These conversations are all about expanding our capacity to love ourselves, each other, and the world around us. And if you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to explore my other episodes where we journey into love's deepest, most unconditional forms. Each one is an invitation to reconnect with the parts of yourself that are waiting to be seen, healed, and loved. So thank you for being here. Let's begin. Hi, Richelle.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to share your story with us, as well as driving up here to Portland to make it happen. So I'm very appreciative of you and your time. And we're just going to start by asking, can you share a little bit about your personal journey and what led you to become a mentor for women in midlife?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. This is really, it was in my gratitude today. I was just really grateful for the opportunity and really grateful that I met you.
Me too.
Sort of, how the universe just kind of brings people together. So that connection was really amazing. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful day for a drive, and I'm just happy to be here. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I'm really, truly appreciative.
Yes, of course.
So can you repeat the question for me?
Yes, of course,
I got a little off track.
Can you share a little bit about your personal journey and what led you to become a mentor for women in their midlife?
Yeah. So just a little bit about me. I have been a hairdresser. This September will be 40 years, believe it or not. And about in 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had a professional mentor, hairdressing group that I belonged to, and Nina Kovner is her name, and she taught us about gratitude. And that was where I first learned of gratitude. And I had been wanting to transition out of hairdressing, or at least contribute somehow, giving back to my hairdressing community. And so when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I sort of got off track with that. As
anyone would.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
But what I did do is I used what I learned from Nina and gratitude and just started on the days that I did do treatment, which was every 3 weeks, as I just would get up really early. I would sort of prep for the day, because I don't know if you know anyone who's gone through treatment, but those treatment days are really, really long. They start early. They go like 8 hours.
Yeah.
And they're fairly exhausting. So I would get up, I would make a really good breakfast, I would paint my nails. And so I would just kind of do a little prayer, meditation, and gratitude. And that was kind of how I started. Mm-hmm. And from there, life sort of happens. I have 2 sons, and they went off to college, and my husband and I downsized, and I just found myself in a space again where I was just wanting to do something different. And when you don't have kids at home, you kind of are in this space where you're like, now what am I going to do? And I ended up getting my life coaching certificate. And because I'm a woman in midlife, and I see a lot of women in my age group, because again, in hairdressing, your client base sort of ages with you. I
Yes.
was connecting with a lot of women on a daily basis who are in that same space. And so, and hairdressers are like bartenders. You hear a lot of stories. And so I just knew there was just a need for that. And it started off as more of self-care or personal care, like makeup and hair and skincare. And then it sort of kind of evolved into the gratitude over time.
Uh-huh.
And I just feel like the gratitude is at the center of it all, and the self-care kind of evolves into it. I'm not sure if that completely answers your question, but I do feel that gratitude, self-love, self-care starts that confidence journey, and then that kind of flows from there, from the inside outward.
Well, you answered it. The question was basically, what was your personal journey and what led you to start working with women that were around your age?
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess it's a long answer.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll get to more of the specifics. What are you naturally gifted in, and how have those gifts supported you through your healing journey?
Ooh. That's a good one. I've never really thought about that. That's really interesting. Am I naturally gifted in?
Take your time.
I would say probably gifted in wanting to take care of people as a nurturer. And so I feel that has evolved over time. So yeah, I think
Okay.
wanting to take care of people.
Okay. How has that supported you through your healing journey?
That supported me on my healing journey, just knowing what it's like to be on the other side of that coin because of working with so many people. And I know so many people who have been touched by cancer with good outcomes and not so good outcomes.
Yeah.
I had some insight, so that helped me. And then I just, I think just sort of having a little more insight supported me. And I think those people in turn turned around and gave me a lot of support.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I had a really great support system.
So what I'm hearing is that you, in being so generous throughout your life, during your healing process, learned the gift of receiving.
Yes. When you are in that space, you always have a choice, but you learn pretty quickly that you have to just surrender.
Yeah, of course.
To a certain, you always fight, but you learn pretty quick. If you don't surrender, you will be exhausted.
Yes. Well, it's probably forced deep rest for you.
Yes, and I had to take time off work. You don't look like yourself. You don't feel like yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of your you lose a lot of yourself, and you have to let some of that go.
Yeah. Tell us more about that.
Well, for starters, you lose all your hair.
Yes.
So there's that.
Yeah.
You become very, very bloated. Well, I did. This is my experience. Become very bloated. Some people can, for as you know, so many people supported me, but then it's surprising the people who don't, who kind of shy away from you.
Yes.
Because maybe it's something they're not comfortable with. So you have to learn that it's not you, it's them.
Yes.
So it's putting things in different containers. And that can be hard. But it's also when you're a person who is used to taking care of others and being in control and taking care of their family, it's learning to sit back and let others take care of you and learning to accept yourself where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be challenging. And then it's also difficult when you have kids at home for them to see you that way, because I know it can be scary for them. Even, my one son was away at college, but my younger son was at home, and I'm sure that wasn't easy for him.
Yeah.
But, that he saw a lot, and that probably was hard.
Yes.
So
I'm sure it was hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't protect him from it.
Yeah.
And you can't hide it.
No, you can't.
And would you say that for the people that shied away from it, have you come to the understanding that people are afraid of their own mortality?
I haven't necessarily come to that. I just felt like maybe it was just an uncomfortable situation with them, or maybe they just don't know what to say or how to react or respond. And so, or, there's oftentimes it's like, oh, I'm going to send a card, or I'm going to drop by or make a meal, and you never do. So you just don't.
Yeah.
And then the time passes, and then it's just awkward.
Yeah.
So maybe the intention was there, and then it just doesn't. But those people were so few compared to the number of people who just stepped up.
I bet.
That, choose to not focus on that. So
yeah. I mean, I think not the same. You asked if I had any experience with cancer. I don't personally have any experience with cancer. My father was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma when I was 28.
Mm-hmm.
And so your story of how it impacts you is very valid and real. And, I also watched my brother-in-law die of a very rare cancer in the eyes. And that was very difficult, very challenging. I supported his family through that, as well as my 2 nieces and nephew. And so, I don't know where we were going with that. I kind of got lost in my storytelling, but I guess when I went through a divorce, not the same. Not even the same. Not comparing. But I will say that I can relate to people who either wanted to support you through it, or the people who either got tired of hearing about it, or didn't know the right thing to say, or didn't know how to support you through it, and they fell away. Absolutely. So that I can absolutely relate to. And it's almost as if maybe it's a death of your old self, as in divorces too. And that the people that move forward with you are the people that are meant to stay.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So what are you passionate about today, and how has that passion evolved over the years?
So moving forward from 2017, I'm really passionate about gratitude and trying to appreciate every day. And it's not so much that I think about my mortality, because I don't focus on having had cancer or worrying about a reoccurrence. I mean, sure, it pops up, and I go for regular checks.
Yeah.
But that's not my main focus.
Yeah, you don't fear it.
No. I mean, my oncologist told me, I'm not worried about you getting breast cancer again. I'm worried about you getting a different kind of cancer. It's just the reality.
Yeah.
But even though that pops in my head, I don't obsess about it. I do things to try to mitigate my chances. I lost like 30 pounds after my treatment was done. And I've managed to maintain most of that weight loss. I exercise every day, most days. I try to eat, better foods. I control what I can control.
Yes.
I'm not obsessive.
Yes. Yes.
I still enjoy life. I still like my ice cream.
Who doesn't like ice cream?
I like my treats.
Even vegans would tell you that they miss ice cream and that oat milk ice cream is not the same. It's just not.
Well, coconut ice cream's pretty good.
It is if you like the taste of coconut. For those who do not. Yeah, and it's kind of like eating a vegan brownie. The vegan brownie, no matter the bakery, it's never going to be a brownie from Duncan Hines. It just isn't going to have the same texture. It just is not the same. And so what I had to realize in becoming vegan and vegetarian in a modified graduated step process over time is that you can't compare. You just can't compare when you lose something like that. You just ultimately have to say, well, ice cream is this whole thing, and me trying to represent it with coconut milk ice cream is probably not going to take its place. No, but it's a good cold dessert, right?
It's still got the it hits the vibe.
So you've mentioned gratitude. You and I have talked about gratitude on Instagram Lives as well. Gratitude really speaks to you. Talk to us why, or explain to us why gratitude itself is so... like it's almost like who you are.
So I do a lot of reading on gratitude, and I do a lot of researching on it. And the reason why I really love gratitude, why I appreciate it, why I am so passionate about it is a lot of it is because it ties into my faith. I'm a Christian, and I think those two are, for me, my faith and gratitude practice are interlinked.
Yes.
And you could tie that into any higher power belief, whatever that is. They can be interlinked. For me, it's Christianity. But it's also, gratitude is also looking outside of yourself. So it's not something I've done for somebody and then I'm expecting something in return. It is learning to appreciate small things in your daily life and being aware of those things. It can also be, appreciating big things too. But I feel like the bigger things are easy to see. They're easier to appreciate because they're kind of in your face. But the small things are harder to seek out, especially when you are in a hard space or a hard season.
I like how you just called it a hard season.
Because we all have those seasons, right?
Yes, we do. I like to refer to it as like being on a Ferris wheel. And sometimes you're on the top and sometimes you're on the bottom.
I like that. That was really good.
And sometimes when you're in the bottom, your feet drag through the mud while you're there.
Yes. And sometimes you are screaming at the guy to let you off.
Yes. And you're stuck in the middle. Exactly.
That's so true. So, and then I recently read that, and I just found this, that gratitude and the root of it is, I'm going to probably get this wrong, so don't quote me on this, but the root of it is the word grace in Greek. And so I like how those two go together.
I love that.
I think is really amazing. So, you're kind of giving yourself some grace or seeing the world through
Graciousness.
lenses with grace, right?
Yeah.
Because we all deserve a little grace. The world deserves a little grace. And
Good God, does it not?
yeah, right? So I think that's really powerful, and I think it's really potent, and I think it's so easy to be judgmental and bitter and angry, and it's a lot harder to be gracious and to find things to be happy about or joyful about. But I have found that doing so makes each day a little bit easier and a little bit better. And it doesn't mean that, I live my life in a Pollyanna way, because that's not true. But it does just help me focus on what is good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It changes your perspective.
Correct.
And I think we even talked about it in class. For those who haven't listened before, I'm pursuing my MA in counseling, and we talked about in class that just last week, I think, that faking it, your brain is really just listening to you. So, the more that you focus on it, even if you are in a tough season, the more it appears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you love doing more than anything else, and has that changed since facing breast cancer?
I really just, my favorite thing is to spend time with my kids, because it's so rare right now. They're such amazing young men, and when we're all together, which again is very rare. One lives in Seattle, one's in Boston.
Oh, wow.
He's going to be going to San Antonio, then Mississippi, and then back to San Antonio. And they're just, in these times of their lives where they're starting their careers and have obligations. And so I really love spending time with them, because they're really fun. And yeah, we're a very close family, because we don't have a ton of family.
Yeah.
So that is my favorite thing to do. But how has that changed since my diagnosis or my breast cancer? It hasn't changed much.
So did anything become sweeter afterwards, I guess is the question?
Yeah, just valuing that time. I really love to travel. I guess that would be, next in line. I love to travel, and I like to take those opportunities when they arise. They are that much more meaningful to me, because as I'm going to be 58, I always feel like, well, I might have another 10, 15 good years to be able to travel on my own, right? My husband's 61. He's had a lot of health issues the last year, and anyway. And so we just don't ever know, and we both love to travel.
Do we ever know?
We never know. We never know. And
we never know.
When those opportunities arise. So I think even just, a day trip to the coast, or we drove up to Vancouver on Father's Day, a 2-hour drive just to have lunch to see my son. Because I just figured out after, 2 years that it's the halfway point between Seattle and Eugene. So that was really great. And we just, I really loved that. So just enjoying those times that we can get out of town, even just for an afternoon, is
awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah. Awesome. What did you love doing as a child?
Oh, geez, reading. Reading was my escape.
What did you read?
Nancy Drew.
Me too.
Nancy Drew. I think I read those books like I'd blaze through those books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And read them over and over again.
Yeah.
Is there a childhood memory you've never shared before that speaks to who you are now?
That what?
That speaks to who you are now?
That I've never shared before. That's a good one.
Well, even if you've shared it, you probably haven't shared it on a podcast.
That's a good one. There's probably a lot. There's just probably, which one do I want to choose? I think I guess what I would say, how I would answer that is, my parents divorced when I was 13, middle school. And so I can just like distinctly remember that time.
Yeah. I bet.
And so how does that define me now? It makes me appreciate the nuances of relationships and marriages and how hard it can be. And as a kid, you see things differently.
Of course you do.
And that parents are just doing the best that they can with the knowledge that they have. And I always hope that I'm learn to do a little bit better. And that I think it shaped me in a way where I hope that I can communicate with my kids a little bit differently. So, and maybe with my husband. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sounds like you've been in a relationship with him for quite a while.
Oh, yeah. For about 30. Let's see. We got married in 91. 33 years, 34 years. 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 years dating.
That's the year I graduated from high school. Yeah. I'm right behind you. Okay, so what do your friends most appreciate about you?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
It might be a good question for you to ask.
Yeah, I'm going to have to ask them. I don't know.
Okay. How have your relationships deepened through your experiences?
I hope that they have a little more substance. I hope that they have some depth to them. And I hope that the friends that I hold near and dear to me really know that they are my people and my tribe.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What was it like receiving your diagnosis and navigating your breast cancer journey?
Receiving that diagnosis was kind of like it was a big shock because I was not expecting it. It was very much like, I'm not really sure I heard that correctly.
Were you just at a typical routine appointment or?
Yeah, I just went in for my normal annual mammogram. Ironically, it was a couple months late past my date, which probably turned out to be very good because they caught it early. And it was in an area that would have been hard to see had it been probably sooner. And, the radiologist, you get the diagnosis, you go, the radiologist says, you have breast cancer. Do you have an oncologist? No.
Yeah,
who has an oncologist?
just randomly on hand in
Randomly,
my Rolodex.
yeah, exactly. So, fortunately for me, our neighbor at the time is a plastic surgeon, and he did a lot of reconstructive surgery, breast surgery.
Yes.
And we were able to call him. I had done a little bit of research, and we called our neighbor, and he was like, "Here's who I would see." And basically, it was, sorry,
It's okay.
it was all lined up for me. And in Eugene, they basically had a team, and they all talked to each other, so there was no disconnect, which was so amazing. I mean, even when I went in to have my port put in, I had asked my oncology surgeon a question, and he's like, "Oh, Dr. Fiorello just texted me that," and he literally handed me his phone to show me the text from my oncologist, so I could read it and see. So, they were all that interconnected, and it was so great.
Good.
And
so you received good care.
I really feel like I had excellent care. I didn't have any lapse in anything.
That's incredible.
It was pretty darn good.
For going through something like that.
Yeah, I mean, even on my treatment days, I can't complain. And then, my community of friends, my girlfriend set up a meal train. So I had people bringing me food to my house like twice a week. I didn't have to do anything. I had to take off work. My clients were great. My friend at the salon, I owned a little hair studio at the time, and my friend TJ, she just took over. She cleaned the salon every week for me. She took care of a lot of my clients. She already had a full client base, so I mean, she was amazing. My other coworker friend, he helped her. I had a lot of people really step up.
Yeah.
It was pretty
Incredible.
awesome. And I'll just say, when I got my diagnosis, one of the reasons why I was kind of shocked was because it was on my dad's birthday, and my dad died at 51 of colon cancer.
Oh,
and so
wow.
I thought for sure it was going to be negative, because I'm like, hey, universe, it's my dad's birthday. There's no way that could be positive.
Oh, wow.
That have a little, a little in, and it was wrong. So that was kind of what threw me.
Yeah. The synchronicity and the timing of it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'll say, to have had to go through it, it was pretty darn good.
What did it teach you about yourself?
The cliche, you're stronger than you think. Yeah.
Can you elaborate more?
What was that?
Can you elaborate more?
I think you don't really know what you can handle until you're actually handling it.
Yeah.
And it is really cliche and it's overused, but I don't think there's any way to explain it
Any other way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What hurdles have you personally faced, and how have you overcome them?
I think breast cancer is one of them. I think, I don't know if there's necessarily hurdles, but I've had a lot of disruptions in my life. I moved around a lot when I was a kid. I went to I think 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. So, making friends all the time, that's hard, especially in high school.
Yes.
So I navigated that. Parents' divorce, even though that was common back in the 70s, everyone was getting divorced.
Not my parents.
Oh, good for you. I mean, maybe that was good. I don't know.
Based upon the little you know of me, do you really think good for me?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always that, right?
Yes.
I think I've grown a lot. I've learned, my family is very good at, like, just keep the peace. Like, you just shove it down and it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband's family is Italian, so you can only imagine what that means. It's like, you get it out there, you get it out loud, and you get it out done, and you move on, right? So 30 years later, I'm just now learning to, like, kind of use my voice and discover that.
Good for you.
So, that all those things have kind of added up, plus therapy. So that helps.
Yeah. There's a great book. I think it's by Terrence Real. And it's called, I'm pretty sure it's by him. Maybe I'm misquoting. And it's called We.
We? W-E?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I take it back. It's not called We. It's called Us.
Us.
That makes way more sense. And I don't even know if he's the one that wrote it.
That's funny.
It reminds me of what you're talking about, only because this is why I brought it up. Random thought is because you're talking about conflict styles. And there are several different conflict styles. And it's very interesting to me in reading this book, knowing what conflict style you are, because a lot of times we don't go into relationships knowing that.
No.
We don't do the comprehensive interview process that we might do when we take on a job, and that takes self-confidence too. Don't get me wrong, not everyone does that or learns how to do that until they get much older, but we don't always ask the questions of how were arguments dealt with, how did conflict, how was it handled in your family. And so we oftentimes choose partners that are conflicting with how we grew up. No different than attachment styles. We often have a different attachment style than our partner, which causes conflict in the relationship of sorts because we both handle things differently. And the reason why we're drawn to this is because it's been modeled to us that relationships have to be difficult and that relationships require conflict, because otherwise we would be bored if we just had calm in the relationship. Something might be wrong, especially if we come from a background or a family history of a lot of conflict. We're going to create it. We'll create it if we don't have it. Yes. So my family didn't necessarily, they more like pretended like it didn't exist. Yeah. That it just wasn't happening.
Denial.
Yeah, denial. Yes. Exactly. So, okay. How has your relationship with gratitude changed over time?
I think it's changed over time in just the fact that I am more aware of it, more cognizant of it, and I practice it, more than just like, oh, thank you for having me here. Like, I am truly grateful to be here.
Yes.
It was part of my gratitude practice this morning. And more than just, thank you, Andrea, for having me here. Like, I'm grateful not only for you having me here, I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my story. I'm grateful to share my passion. It's just multi-layered.
Yeah.
And
so it goes deeper for you.
Yeah, it goes deeper. And I think going back to my faith, I always kind of felt like it was connected to my faith, but I was reading, have you read Daring Greatly by Brene Brown?
Uh-huh.
So I think it's guidepost for, but I'm not 100%. But she talks about those two being interconnected, and it really kind of was like, oh, okay, so I'm not wrong. Like it is interconnected with that, and I really felt that, and so I think it has deepened my faith, and so I appreciate that, and it's just become a daily part. Even if I'm not doing my gratitude journaling, it again, it has just made me more aware.
How does it show up for you in your daily practice or on a daily basis?
Gratitude? In the sense that first there's the physical practice of it. If I'm journaling, so I have a journaling gratitude journal. I actually brought it with me. I didn't know if you wanted to see what it was kind of all about.
At this point, I don't want you to get off camera.
Yeah, no, I know.
To show everyone,
I should have shown you earlier.
It's okay.
So I, in a physical sense, I have a gratitude journal that I write in most days. So I do that. Otherwise, I walk, like I said, most days. So in my neighborhood, I can appreciate and feel gratitude for the flowers that are blooming right now, especially the sun. My goodness, we live in the Pacific Northwest. The summers are amazing. Yeah. I've been walking at 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. It's still light out. Hello, this is fabulous.
It's light out at 9:30 at night now.
I know. It's not raining and dark and cold,
it's so amazing.
At 4:30.
Yeah.
So there's that. So just in daily life, I can find gratitude anywhere. In the fall, like the leaves turn. I have a picture on my Instagram where I found a heart-shaped leaf.
Oh, awesome.
It's so cute, So you can find gratitude wherever you look. It's just how you choose to see what you see.
Yes, it is. Smart words. Can you describe a moment during your illness or healing process when gratitude shifted your perspective completely?
I don't remember when necessarily, if it was during my illness, but I think just realizing at some point, just being grateful that I had care, that I had really an amazing team of doctors. I love my oncologist. He's really, really, really great. Plus he's a redhead when my son's a redhead, and he's Italian. My husband's Italian, and he's from New Jersey, so he gives it to you straight. So I love that whole combination. So I was really grateful for that. And I just was grateful to at some point I was just grateful that I just didn't let it define me. So I don't know that it was a very specific moment. At some point I just decided I don't want to be like cancer girl. There's nothing worse than walking in everywhere you go with a bald head and a hat and a scarf and feeling like everyone's staring at you. And at some point you have to let that go. And there's some type of gratitude in that and just feeling that release.
Especially coming from doing hair.
Yeah.
And being so visible and helping others look their best, right? Yeah. Having to drop that. Okay. What would you say to someone who feels like they have nothing to be grateful for right now?
Oh, I would say, I know life can be really tricky and really hard. And I know there's many people out there who don't even have the life basics. That makes me really sad. even on the way up here, I stopped at a rest stop, and there was a woman who was homeless. She had a sign. She said, I live in my car and it's really tough out there. But she had a puppy with her. And, this woman, I don't know how old she was. She wasn't young. But she had this puppy, and she was just loving on this puppy. And I came out of the restroom, and she was playing with this puppy, and this dog was barking, and she was laughing. And I can imagine she just felt gratitude to have this puppy with her. And so I would say there's probably always something if you just stop a minute and look. And it might not always be, like I said earlier, a huge smack you in the moment, like whatever. But try to even just start small every day with, maybe you're just grateful for your cup of coffee in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're grateful your kids went to bed without a fight,
Maybe you're grateful that you're not in Gaza right now.
Yes, it could be like, that's pretty grateful,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah, or maybe you're grateful you resisted the urge to turn on the TV and listen to the news. I mean, there's can always be something. So maybe you have to dig really deep. But I don't want to ignore those people or be I don't want to dismiss the people that, maybe don't have the basics and find it hard to survive every day. So
for sure. And in addition, we're not dismissing other people's pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not trying to minimize other people's pain
No.
or take it away from them or pretend like it doesn't exist.
Right.
But absolutely, there can be an and,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can be in pain or you could be suffering, and you can still find
Yes.
things that you love or
Mm-hmm.
that bring you joy, like the puppy. The reason why we see a lot of homeless people with animals, maybe the judging part of us is like, you can't even take care of yourself. Why would you have an animal drug through this process? But animals, I can attest because I have a bunch of them, they give you unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel ignored by the world, as do people who are in war-torn countries right now, when you feel silenced and like the rest of the world isn't even in touch with what is going on with you or your daily circumstances, and you feel like you're sitting on the side of the road with a sign and no one sees you, that animal does.
Yes.
That animal goes to sleep with you at night and cuddles you when
Mm-hmm.
nobody else will even come near you or doesn't want to come near you because of your circumstances or fear. So I'm in agreement with you. I think you can always, no matter how difficult it is, no matter if you have suicidal ideation, you can always still find things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, I would say really important, to try to find something to be grateful for every day, because that in turn helps you see something positive every day, and that in turn gives you hope.
Yes.
And again, especially when life is hard or you're in a hard season or you're just having a crap day, it helps you see your way out. It helps you find a moment of joy, a moment. It just gives you a moment. It throws you a lifeline, maybe, if you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
something to keep going for.
It can give you forward momentum. I don't know why that was so hard to get out, but yeah, it just gives you forward momentum to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How has daily gratitude transformed your mental, emotional, and even physical well-being?
I think it's just helped. It's probably for all the things that I just said. I do all the things to take care of my health. spiritually, mentally, physically. But it has helped me just see the possibility in each day. It's helped me be grateful for each day, each moment. It's also probably most importantly helped me just be where my feet are, you know, that feeling of
Being
just
grounded
like
in your
just
body.
being grounded and just
Present.
being present. Yeah. Just being where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of helps you slow down a minute, right?
Yes.
Put the brakes on.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, that's super important. And there is, just to elaborate on that, there is actual science-backed data proving that gratitude helps with all of those things.
Yes.
So there's that too.
What's one myth about gratitude that you wish more people would unlearn?
I don't know if there's any myths that I'm aware of, but yeah, I'm not sure. I would maybe that it might be hard, or
Yeah.
that there's nothing to be grateful for,
Or that they don't have time.
or maybe they don't have time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not myths. Maybe it's roadblocks.
Yes. Okay. What's something unique or surprising about you that only those closest to you know? Something that supported you during your healing process?
I like my coffee in the morning and nobody to talk to me. And preferably in bed.
Okay.
Probably only my husband knows that. Because he's learned the hard way. Don't talk to her. She hasn't had her first cup of coffee.
So you need your caffeine.
I need my caffeine. I like my quiet. I like to just like wake up slowly.
Uh-huh. Yes. Same with me. As you can tell by today, I get all flustered by all kinds of things in the morning if I don't have routine in some way and flexibility at the same time.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things that happen every morning. Like I have to take care of all the animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if anything gets in the way of that, or I just get derailed by,
Whatever.
guests staying with me that need the air conditioning on and my windows are all open, it just, gets me out of sorts.
Yeah.
So I get it. I need some quiet time in the morning too. How do you lead yourself through difficult or uncertain moments now?
Practicing gratitude, prayer, manifesting, walking.
Manifesting.
Yeah.
You have a manifesting process too, huh?
Yeah, I do it all. I have a routine in the morning. I wake up, I go get my coffee, I sit for a few minutes, and then I get out my gratitude journal. Well, I have an app on my phone, and I do a Bible passage every day. I read through that, and it's sort of a prayer meditation, and then I do my gratitude journal. And at the bottom of that, I sometimes I'll write out a prayer. Sometimes I'm, just thinking about things that I want. So I consider it manifesting, things that I want to achieve, things that I want in the future, things I'm asking for. I also have a Melanie Beattie book that I can never remember the name of, and it's dated, and I read through that and sort of pick through that.
Yeah, it's, I don't remember the name of it either, but it's specific to codependency.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What are you still working on healing within yourself?
Just that probably that teenage girl who doesn't always feel confident, who kind of isn't comfortable in her skin, has some doubts, feels insecure, isn't always wanting to speak up or, still and searching for others' approval.
Has that lessened at all as you've gotten older?
Yes and no. It depends on the circumstances.
Okay, that's honest.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
For me, it is amazing how much it's shifted over time for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I can say this because it's my podcast. I do not give a fuck anymore. And that has shifted drastically in the last 10 years. Yeah. Yeah. I grew up highly visible and wanting to be invisible. I grew up in a family that caused a lot of attention. I was a really beautiful child that caused a lot of attention. People would stop my mother, like it was a thing. And so I got a lot of attention, and I was so insecure because of it. So insecure. Because I always felt like I was being watched.
Mm-hmm.
And as I get older, I guess I don't know that there's like a significant moment that shifted it, but the more I get older, the more it feels like, at least as women, we're not in the spotlight anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're like forgotten.
No.
But I'm saying like we're not in the spotlight. And so I'm so relieved. I just want to live my life. I don't care what you think. I don't. I really don't. I'm not saying my feelings don't get hurt.
Right.
But especially if someone's going out of their way. But ultimately, the difference between me worried about leaving my home in sweats at 20 and going to the mall as opposed to, and like feeling like I needed to do my hair and makeup and everything before I left, as opposed to now I'm like, I will never see these people again. Yeah. I'm at the grocery store. I will never see this person again, except for maybe the grocery clerk. Like yes. So that's just kind of how I look at it now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't, I can walk into most places and feel pretty confident. For me, it's more if I make a mistake. Like I sent out some things and I sent them from my wrong email and the forms weren't right. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're so dumb. Why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this. You need to hire somebody. Why are you trying to do it all? You need to change this. I just kind of like started
shame
this
spiral.
whole... Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah. Well, shame is nasty.
Yeah, she's a nasty bitch.
She sure is. And or he is, depending on who's listening. But it is one of the things that we carry from our family, specifically our caregivers. It's handed to us. We carry something called carried shame.
What is it?
Carried shame from our caregivers. A lot of times when they weren't able to process their own shame, they handed it off to us.
That would make sense. That would track, as my kids would say.
Yeah. And then, you also have your own shameful experiences that happened. So, that is something that I teach people about in my program. That's a major contributor, if not the contributor, shame plus carried shame, to why you get emotionally triggered.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And when you get emotionally triggered, it brings you back to the time, automatically, your brain brings you back to the time that this reminds you of the same kind of shame. So if that happened a lot at a particular time in your life, which it generally does, you usually have a cluster of a number of years, you either will go back to a younger version of yourself, which would be early childhood, or you go back to a teenage version of yourself. And I would imagine that because you had the divorce and everything that was going on during that time, which made you very vulnerable to your peers and to the rest of the world and in your family, that that is where your most significant trauma is. And so anytime that you get emotionally reactive in your body or dysregulated, you're going to travel back to that time.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And then you react from that experience.
Totally. That makes sense. That's why I come back with the whatever.
That's very teen oriented. Yes. And see, most of mine was in my early childhood. So I'm more of the crier.
Yeah.
And
Well, I do that too.
Yeah. Well, like, early childhood would be, so teen is needless, think of a teen. Needless, they think they know better. They're perfect, and they don't need your help. And they build a wall. And anything that is vulnerable or weak is like, ugh, okay? And early childhood is the exact opposite of it.
Yeah.
So early childhood is vulnerable and exposed, just like a baby, and needy. And so that's almost repulsive. So think of in relationships, when I was saying earlier, when we attract our opposite, if one of you is anxious attachment, which is early childhood, and one of you is avoidant attachment, which is teen years, ego state, then ultimately every time the two of you get in an argument, not only are you the opposite of each other, but you repel each other. Because the teen is like, get off the floor, why are you crying? And the person who is anxious attached is like, but I don't know how to be any other way. I'm fairly anxious right now and fairly emotional about this. And my emotional regulation stems from my childhood. And this is just where I go to.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So, that was very eye-opening when I I found that out about the year before you got your diagnosis. And
Wow.
it totally changed how I looked at relationships.
Yeah.
My marriage at the time, as well as any future partnerships. And it's also what I teach people about in my program. So, okay. Where was I? What old ideas or beliefs about yourself are you outgrowing, and what new parts of you are beginning to emerge?
I think I'm outgrowing that. I'm not for everyone, so I'm okay with that. Yeah.
I love that.
So I'm emerging into, I'll find my tribe and speak to those who need to be spoken, who want to be spoken to, I should say, not need to be, but
Yes.
want to be.
We know what you meant.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are essentially not people pleasing anymore.
No.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm a recovering people pleaser
Yes.
as well. Who are the people or communities that most uplift you?
My husband's a really great supporter. He's always, he's texting me, yet he's very comfortable in front of a microphone and in front of people. And, so he's like, just talk about what you know. You're really good at it. So he's always my biggest supporter. Yeah. My girlfriend, Shelly, she's given me an opportunity this fall to go with her to Greece for 2 weeks. And we're doing 2 different weeks of women's retreat, and she does culinary tours. That's her things, but she's giving me the opportunity to go with her and teach gratitude and journaling and do life coaching. So so those 2 for sure. And then my kids are pretty supportive, and I have my clients again are always asking me how things are, and they're always commenting on my Instagram posts.
Yeah.
They're funny. They're like, well, I always like your posts, but I never comment or like, and I'm thinking, please do that. it helps. But no, yeah, my, I have some aunts that share and share my stuff and appreciate it. And so, yeah, so family and friends. But yeah, it's always great. And my sister-in-law too.
So you're just really tight with family.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any communities that you're involved with?
I haven't gotten into the community situation. I've had a hard time really connecting in Eugene. I haven't figured out like where to go or any groups or I have not found that space yet, to be honest with you.
How long have you lived in Eugene?
A really long time, like since 1999.
Oh, okay.
I have my church. I've, done a workshop there. I'm probably going to do another one. But as far as like a women's group or a gratitude group or a journaling group, I really haven't found that space there. That's next on my list to start reaching out to different groups within the Eugene Springfield community to see what I can come up with.
Yeah.
Or create.
Or just support for yourself.
Yeah. I did organize a group for hairdressers to meet for coffee, and it just kind of didn't go anywhere a few years back. So I was a little kind of a lot of work to organize and then not have a lot of participation. So this is in my hair stuff. I reached out to a couple of the beauty schools to go and speak. I went once, kept offering, didn't really get anywhere. So I guess it kind of derailed me on that. But yeah, now I'm just kind of like, I'm not really sure which direction to go. I have some ideas. Definitely have some ideas.
Good. If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be, and how has that shaped the way you support others now?
Not sure what I would change. I mean, my parents were both really good people. They were hard workers. They were good people. They got married at 18, had me at 19, my brother at 21. They did their best. And I'm not sure it would have been good for them to stay together, maybe. I don't know. I think what would I have changed? I grew up in South Orange County, which is,
Yeah, you went to Dana Hills High.
Yes, I did.
Did you know that I grew up in Dana Point?
I did not know that.
I did. So when I was born in Newport Beach at Hoag Hospital.
Oh my good.
And then we lived in Huntington Beach, and we moved to San Juan Capistrano when I was 4 years old. For those listening, that's Southern Orange County, where the swallows come every year. And then I lived in a very rural neighborhood that probably had like less than 20 custom homes up on top of a hill. And we used to ride our horses all over the place when there wasn't anything.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't own a horse. My two sisters had one. But then I was 13 and we moved to Dana Point. I begged to move to Dana Point. I had a best friend at the time in junior high who lived in a newly built complex that was overlooking the water. And fortunate for me, I was able to convince my entire family to move homes so that I could be closer to her. And they did. They fell in love with the ocean view. And so, yeah, that's how we ended up in Dana Point. I did not go to Dana Hills. I wasn't allowed to go to public school because my two sisters had gone to Capo Valley.
Oh.
And neither of them had a very good experience with going to school. And rather than my parents taking responsibility for that, I think they blamed the schools.
Of course.
But the point is I was put into private school. They chose to do differently with me. So I went all the way out to Rancho Santa Margarita High School, and I was the first.
Oh my gosh,
charter
you went to Rancho Santa Margarita?
from Dana Point. Took an hour each way. Yeah. Back before there weren't toll roads. And we had to take, every stoplight. And so, yeah, I did that for 4 years. And
that's crazy.
Yes. And they don't own that home anymore. But I grew up, just right overlooking the water, like up on the bluff. So you had to walk down the hill across Pacific Coast Highway and then walk through the neighborhood to get down to the beach. But it took probably like 15 or 20 minutes.
What neighborhood was it?
What neighborhood? Well, I don't know that it was necessarily a neighborhood. It was a gated community.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, and I don't know that it was necessarily well known, but it was, right off of Selva and PCH.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes. Very familiar.
Yeah, down the street probably from where you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up in Southern Orange County too. I couldn't wait to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's also why I left the house thinking that everyone was staring at me all the time. Because growing up in Orange County does that to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I left before it got like that. I mean, I spent part of my time in Indian Beach and part of my time in Laguna Niguel, Dana Point. But I loved it down there. I mean, got out of school, half time, walked down to the beach, It was pretty idyllic.
Yeah. I couldn't walk to the beach from
No, you could not, but I could,
Out in the middle of nowhere.
I could, a little, yeah.
It was intentional. My parents wanted me isolated, so I couldn't do anything but go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My childhood wasn't bad. It was pretty good. So I don't know that I would change anything. And the second part was what did I learn?
Well, the second part was if you could change anything, how has that shaped the way you support others now? So would you change anything? What would it be? And how has that changed how you support people now?
I don't think I would change anything. Like I said, my parents were good people. They did the best they could, and emotionally, I would say, and as a couple, and they both remarried, and again, they were hard workers, so they really modeled that well. And I never went without or anything. We were definitely middle class or upper middle class. And
does that shape the way that you help others now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it showed me, I'm not afraid to work. I don't expect anything. I think, maybe that's part of where my gratitude comes from. I've always worked for what I've had. I've never had anything given to me. I think I borrowed money from my dad to get a car. I had to pay him back. I never expected it from him. So, yeah, I think it shaped me to be a person who, appreciates and works for what they want.
So many women in midlife feel stuck or invisible. How do you help women reconnect with their power and inner magic during this stage of life?
So this will be a two-part. So I think when I got into life coaching, my purpose was to help women not feel invisible and feel more confident by taking care of the outside. Like, here, this is what you can do with your makeup. This is what you can do with your hair. This is how you can dress. But then when I really started practicing gratitude, I kind of flipped it, and I realized all of that comes from the inside, even though I already knew that. But I realized to fully glow, you have to change how you feel about yourself from the inside out.
Yes. That's what I learned. I learned that from Orange County 101.
Yeah.
That was my experience.
Yeah, you can have all this going on.
I went to school with some very beautiful people,
Yes.
but boy, were they ugly on the inside.
Yes, exactly. So, so that's where the gratitude practice came in. And I still feel like you can be really, I still want women to feel put together. And so having your insides match your outside, I think, is a full package. Mm-hmm. So feeling invisible is no fun. And I used to hear it all the time when I was, had older ladies, and they would say, I feel invisible. Literally, they would tell me, when you get older, you'll feel invisible. Nobody cares about you. They literally don't see you. And these are smart, beautiful women.
Yeah.
And accomplished. One woman was the first female sheriff of Lane County.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Yes.
She was my son's teacher, Esther Barton. She was amazing and tough as nails, that gal. But anyway.
I love it.
So
I'm going to go back to being invisible. I love it. I think it's phenomenal.
Well, and I don't mean like, I think she even just meant like asking for help at the store. Like, can you just reach something for me? Mm-hmm. Or can you just, I have a question type of thing.
It's made me more capable.
Yeah. Or people just assume something of you because you look a certain way or a certain age.
That's going to happen no matter what age you
are. That's probably true. But, so yeah, I just, for it to come all together and to just know that, think about when you were a kid and you met a woman who you assumed was old. How old do you think she really was?
Oh, she was like 30.
Exactly.
When you're a kid? Absolutely. Yeah. Because your perception of time is so different.
Right.
Think of how long it took just for the end of the school day.
Yeah. But
your relationship to time is different.
Right. But if you look back at like pictures of your grandparents or something and
they didn't live as long as we did.
That's true. But they just looked older to me. Like just the way that they carried themselves and the way that they acted and they just were old before their time. And women and men now in their 50s and 60s don't look like women and men 20, 30 years ago in their 50s and 60s, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Well, we're more educated.
We're more educated. We're more active. We're
more educated.
Aware.
We are more educated. We continue to become more educated. You're at the top of Gen X. I'm at the bottom of Gen X. Mm-hmm. Beliefs are shifting through generations. If I brought out a picture, which I did recently with my hairdresser, because it's going to sound mean, but I was laughing at a picture of my mom when she was my age because again, that relationship to time. And I think I brought this up on a different episode. So right now I am the same age essentially that my mom was when I had my daughter, who is now my age approximately when I had her.
Wow.
And so one day she texted me some pictures, my daughter, and said, "Oh, Grandma just sent these to me." And I immediately was like, "Oh yeah, I remember this happening," because, and it was my mom sitting on a horse with my daughter. And I looked at my mom and then I did the math and I was like, oh my God, we're approximately the same age. And so my relationship to time for like 3 or 4 weeks, I just could not get out of my head that I realized how much time has gone since I had my daughter till now. I lived every single day, but how fast that went.
Right.
And to recognize that my parents are now at the end of their lives, approximately. And that's how much time I have left. Theoretically.
Yes.
Because again, we don't know.
Correct.
There is no guarantee. And so that relationship to time really shifts. Think of in your 20s when you would just fuck around and not do anything. And you would not do anything, not just for a day, for months at time. And like you just had no direction, or you didn't know what you wanted to do yet, or you just wasted time. And I remember my parents trying to get this instilled in my brain at that age. I think any parent who tries to tell their kid that they're wasting time is probably not going to get through. But ultimately, it's so fucking true. You had so much more time to do stuff. And as you get older, you recognize, I don't have any fucking time anymore.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do it, I better fucking do it now. I'm the one who's standing in my way. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much time I have, right? Why am I waiting to take that vacation? My husband's had health issues. Granted, I've had health issues. If I wait another 5 years, it's possible we don't know what our life circumstances might be. And we have to take advantage of now. Yeah. We have to take advantage of now. And you know, again, kids don't always, I mean, they are living in the present, but they're always looking forward to being old enough to do something. Right. Until they get to be that age, right? Yeah. And so they're always kind of not even really relating to what is happening right now, even though, like, you know, any kid is like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. You know, like they're very present, but they're also really, you know, as far as their relationship to time, it's just so far away. Everything's so far away. Mm-hmm. And that's not true anymore. All those milestones for us have already happened. Right. So, I mean, I get that your friends or the people that you're coaching might say, you know, I feel invisible. And I get I'm an anomaly for cheering that on. But also, like, the first thing that I hear when I hear that is, what part of them needs to be seen? Mm. And maybe they just need to be seen. They need to see themselves.
Interesting. That's very, very interesting. Yeah. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Because, I mean, no one really needs to see me except for me. Mm-hmm. You know, the things that I do for myself are really, truly giving to me. Correct. And, you know, contributing to my self-confidence or all the selves, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think I love being my age, is because I don't have to prove anything anymore. Right, right. And what a fucking relief.
Yes, yeah.
That, to be able to put that down and say, I don't have to prove anything anymore. And I feel like that's what I was doing. So back to that story of my mom. My mom looked like hell at 50 because 30 years ago, women just gave up on themselves. Let's be honest. I mean, if we're really going to call this out, women didn't give a shit. They didn't care what they looked like. They all had the same haircut. Yeah. And they all dressed in 80s and 90s clothes, which weren't super flattering for an older woman. And, like, they could have cared more. But I think back to that education piece. We're educated more. We're way more connected, so much so that it's affecting our mental health, but we're way more connected, so we're much more updated on. Jesus Christ, you look at my Instagram feed and it's constantly trying to tell me that my skin is aging. Like, it has absolutely figured out I am the age that I am, or all of the supplements that I might need for health. Mm-hmm. So my point is we're constantly being bombarded with tons of information. Hopefully we're paying attention. We're way more educated on taking good care of ourselves. What does mental health look like? My mom did not know what mental health was, nor did she care. Right.
Right. That's what wine's for.
Right. Like, psychologists worry about that. Eating right. Granted, food was way different 50 years ago, so much more nutrient dense. Yeah. However, what to eat. I mean, my mom was always on a diet as far back. I think she's still, if you asked her today, she's probably on a diet right now. Yeah. And so my point is like all the diet food that went 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, we had margarine in the fridge and everything, our salad dressing was fat free. And being educated on what good fats are and bad fats and knowing more, we know more now.
Yes, that's true.
So we are aging differently in response to that. We're handling stress better in response to that. You mentioned you go to therapy. My mom's never gone to therapy in her life. Not once. She doesn't even think she needs it. Okay, it wouldn't even occur to her. And same with, I think my older sisters probably broke down, because they had a crisis. And that's why they went. So now it's encouraged to actually go so that you have support, because everyone deserves support. And if you don't have a large family, you mentioned your family unit is pretty tight and smaller than average. If you don't have a lot of support, if you don't have community, it's wonderful that you might get a therapist, because everyone deserves to be listened to. Everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone deserves to be heard. And you might not be getting that in your life right now. You might not be getting that in your partnership because of what's going on, because you're in a tough season, or, they're going through something health related and you need someone to talk to.
Right. Yeah.
Or your parents have passed and you don't have them anymore. Mm-hmm. Can't reach out to them, or you didn't have that kind of relationship to begin with. So we're becoming more educated on taking better care of ourselves, and we're living longer because we have the opportunities to. And so, yes, I mean, you can look at pictures of, my grandmother at my age, and she probably did not look that great. She absolutely had different choices than I had.
Right.
She had different liberties. She didn't have the same liberties.
That's true.
She certainly wouldn't be sitting here on a podcast.
That's true.
She was waitressing her ass off to pay bills, right? So very different labor force too. I'm not saying that waitresses have, gone by the wayside.
No,
I'm just
it's
saying,
just different opportunities, for women in
very
in
different
work.
Opportunities for women. Mm-hmm. Very different. And I think we didn't get to vote for ourselves. Well, okay, we're not going to get into that because I'm not a historian, and way different people can talk about that better than I can. But the point is we just didn't have the same opportunities.
Right. Yeah.
So I went on a tangent there, but you got me really. I felt like I needed to explain myself when I said I feel liberated. I feel liberated by being invisible. It's amazing. I don't need attention from everybody. I need attention from me. I spent the first more than half of my year trying to get attention from everybody else. And I was starving on the inside because it wasn't giving it to me.
Yeah, interesting. Well, that's an interesting question to pose when people tell me they feel invisible. I'll definitely have to ask what they mean by that.
Or where they feel like they need to be seen or heard, because maybe they just need to witness themselves.
Yeah, that's a really
and maybe
good point.
They're feeling invisible in their immediate circumstances, which is magnifying on the outside.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Okay. You've spent over 3 decades in the beauty industry. How does beauty and soul-centered mentorship come together in your work?
I think that we just covered that.
Okay, fair enough. We can move on. How does nurturing our outer expression support deep inner healing?
Well, I think finding your voice keeps you from suppressing what's inside, right? If you constantly are shoving it down.
Yes.
You are only harming yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you're also harming the people around you too.
Right. What is it's the Brene
through
Brown
your
theory.
omission, you are absolutely manipulating your situation and circumstances.
People don't know if they don't know. It's clear as kind and kind as clear. So I think that's Brene Brown. So it's something like that, but
Well, the next question was, what's one piece of self-love wisdom you wish everyone knew? It's like you had mental telepathy. We can skip that one too. If someone is feeling overwhelmed or lost right now, what's one simple gratitude practice they can start today to reconnect with themselves?
Just when you wake up, before you even get out of bed, just open your eyes and think about one thing that you might be grateful for. Or before you go to bed at night, when you get into bed at night, it can just be, part of your daily routine at those two ends, or, some moment in your day, just stop. But I find that it's more, I don't want to say more effective, but it's best when you anchor it in with a certain piece of your day that is a routine for you. So
yes,
maybe it's brushing your teeth and you're just like, oh, today I know I'm going to meet my girlfriend for lunch. So I'm grateful for that time that I have coming with her, because, and then, just not just, but what I want more than just saying I'm grateful to have that time, anchor it in with why is that? Why are you grateful for that? Because that really brings it together and it will really settle deep into your heart. And that is what gratitude is. It's centering it into your heart, right? So it's really anchoring into that feeling. And it's not a laundry list of, the checkbox. It's not this.
Yeah. It's more engaged.
Exactly.
It's living in your heart as opposed to your mind.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this on an Instagram Live with you. I loved the practice of doing it at dinner time.
Yeah. It's another,
because it's a great conversation starter.
It is a really good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you're 90 years old, what do you hope you'll have stood for, done, and given to the world?
I hope that I have stood for the things that are most important to me. I hope that I've done right by myself, my truth, and my family, and I hope that I've inspired people.
I think you're already inspiring people.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This has been really fun.
Even our stories about my childhood that is mixed into yours. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. I know some of the questions were very deeply personal for you, and I appreciate the wisdom that you shared with that. And for anyone listening who hasn't been through any kind of cancer diagnosis or hasn't been touched by it, either through themselves or through someone else that they love, I hope that whoever is listening has appreciated the awareness of experiencing that, as well as having maybe more compassion for those around them who might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting this podcast. Your presence here means the world to me, and I'm truly grateful for your time and energy. If this conversation resonated with you or sparked any questions, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from each of you. Your insights, experiences, and curiosities always enrich this space. It's important to remember that trauma, often unseen and unacknowledged, can keep us from living fully in our joy. Through my intuitive healing process, I help release the weight of generational trauma, empowering you to reconnect with your true self and experience life in greater harmony. If you feel called to explore this deeper work, I invite you to book a one-on-one intuitive session or even embark on a personalized journey with the Phoenix Immersion, a 2-day retreat designed to support profound transformation. You can find all the details below. For those who've liked, subscribed, or left comments already, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your engagement means everything, and I'm deeply grateful for the connection we're building in this community. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I'm excited for all the healing and transformation we'll continue to explore together. As always, I'm forever grateful for you, and I cannot wait to see what unfolds next. Take care, and until next time.